Shockwave among ARMY. Where was Jimin during Jungkook's Spotlight? The crowd roared. The lights in Los Angeles glittered brighter than ever, and all eyes were locked on Jungkook as he commanded the stage with a performance that felt almost like a declaration of independence. Yet in the middle of the triumph, one question echoed louder than the applause. Where was Jimin? The silence surrounding his absence sent a jolt through the fandom, sparking endless theories, speculation, and emotional debates that refused to settle down. For a fandom as detail-oriented as ARMY, every movement, every expression, every presence or absence carries weight. Jungkook's LA Spotlight was a moment many fans had anticipated for weeks, with expectations soaring high. But instead of a seamless celebration, the night carried an undercurrent of shock. Jimin, usually the quiet yet grounding counterpart to Jungkook's intensity, was nowhere to be seen. It was not merely about physical presence. It was about the narrative, the symbolism, and the implications of being absent at a moment so pivotal. Observers quickly noticed that the event itself had been meticulously planned. Cameras captured every angle of Jungkook's performance. Media outlets rushed to highlight his confidence, and fans flooded social platforms with clips and emotional reactions. Still, the gaping hole remained. Jimin was missing from the frame. The absence was not casual, it was deafening, and it instantly became the center of conversation. Why would someone so close, so significant, remain unseen when Jungkook stood in such a defining spotlight? The tension only deepened when fragments of fan speculation began to surface. Some argued that Jimin's absence signaled a deliberate choice, perhaps rooted in artistic direction or personal distance. Others whispered about behind-the-scenes rifts, unspoken tensions, or strategic separations orchestrated for reasons beyond fan comprehension. To many ARMYs, it felt almost surreal. How could a bond so often displayed as unshakable suddenly appear fractured in such a public and high-stakes moment? Adding fuel to the fire were the emotions that poured out across fan communities. Messages ranged from confusion to heartbreak, with some fans pleading for understanding and others demanding answers. Theories multiplied like wildfire. Was Jimin avoiding the spotlight to allow Jungkook full focus? Or was this absence the symptom of something far deeper, something unspoken that neither of them was ready to confront in public? The questions were brutal in their honesty, and the answers remained painfully elusive. To make matters even more intense, the narrative around Jungkook's LA triumph almost seemed incomplete without Jimin's familiar presence. Their dynamic, often described as magnetic and irreplaceable, has always been part of what made performances resonate on a deeper emotional level. Without Jimin, the performance was powerful but carried a noticeable void, an emptiness that resonated with fans far beyond the flashing lights of the stage. It was not a matter of ability, but of connection, and it left many wondering whether this absence was a temporary shift or a sign of something permanent. In the days following the spotlight, ARMY communities were flooded with screenshots, video analyses, and emotional posts dissecting every possible clue. A single expression from Jungkook, a subtle lyric choice, or a silence between sets became material for theories. Some believed Jungkook's energy on stage was deliberately heightened to mask a personal void, while others insisted that his radiant confidence was a signal of independence, an intentional step away from old dynamics. But the burning question remained. Why now and why like this? The emotional impact cannot be understated. Fans who have followed their journey for years, investing not just in music, but in the bonds and relationships that define the group, felt a sudden rupture. It was not merely about missing a familiar face in the crowd, it was about what that absence symbolized. Was it a reflection of distance, or was it simply circumstance? For those who watched Jungkook dominate the stage, the performance was unforgettable. Yet for many, it was unforgettable not just for what it contained, but for what it lacked. Even more unsettling was the silence that followed. No acknowledgement, no direct explanation, no comforting presence to ease the storm of speculation. The vacuum of clarity created space for every possible interpretation, and the longer it went unaddressed, the more intense the theories became. Fans began drawing lines between past moments, connecting dots across years of interactions, searching for a hidden meaning that might explain the sudden dissonance. In such a climate, one reality became clear. Jimin's absence during Jungkook's LA Spotlight was not just an isolated event. It was a turning point in the narrative of how fans perceived their bond, their roles, and their future. Theories about independence, personal growth, or even strain dynamics all fed into a growing storm of speculation, and each perspective carried its own weight. ARMY was left not just with questions, but with an emotional ache. An ache born from the collision of loyalty, love, and the unrelenting hunger for answers. The dramatic irony of the situation only sharpened the impact. While Jungkook stood under the brightest lights of his career, celebrated globally for his unmatched performance, the shadows of absence loomed larger than the spotlight itself. The missing presence of Jimin was not just noticed, it was impossible to ignore. It transformed what should have been a pure triumph into a bittersweet puzzle, one that fans are still trying to solve. Now the speculation has reached a fever pitch. Was Jimin's absence a statement of support, silently stepping back so Jungkook could shine without distraction? Or was it a sign of distance, of choices that had already been made behind closed doors? The emotional stakes are high and fans are left holding their breath, waiting for clarity that may never come. One thing is certain. This moment has marked ARMY in a way few others have. The shockwave of Jimin's absence during Jungkook's LA spotlight has become more than just a missing detail. It has become a defining question of this era. Where was Jimin and why wasn't he there? Until answers emerge, the speculation will continue, the debates will intensify, and the emotional weight will linger. The stage may have been Jungkook's, but the silence around Jimin has stolen just as much attention. The silence is heavy, the uncertainty unbearable, and the questions more pressing than ever. Was Jimin's absence during Jungkook's LA spotlight an undeniable reality, or could it be a carefully orchestrated illusion designed to capture attention? In moments like these, when emotion collides with spectacle, fans must ask themselves whether what they see is fact, or whether they are being pulled into a narrative shaped by sensationalism. Can we, as observers, claim to know the truth, or are we simply responding to fragments presented through screens and whispers online? Every detail of Jungkook's LA spotlight was magnified, replayed, and dissected across platforms such as TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and countless media outlets. Yet, amid the noise, the absence of Jimin became more than just a gap in the frame. It became a symbol. But the crucial question remains: is this symbol real? Or is it the product of interpretation, imagination, and the insatiable hunger of media cycles? Why did so many fans accept his absence as a profound truth without questioning whether the narrative itself might be incomplete, manipulated, or exaggerated for maximum impact? Consider the emotional force of fandom culture. When fans witness what appears to be dissonance or distance, their reactions are immediate, visceral, and deeply personal. But should we not pause and ask, are we responding to reality, or to a story constructed by viral clips, selective editing, and speculative commentary? If the sources themselves, social media posts, unverified footage, and trending discussions, cannot guarantee accuracy, then how reliable is the narrative of Jimin's supposed disappearance? Could it be that what fans believe to be evidence is nothing more than suggestion amplified by repetition? This is where critical reflection becomes essential. The fascination with Jungkook's spotlight and Jimin's absence is undeniable, but we must confront the uncomfortable truth. In the absence of verifiable information, speculation becomes its own currency. Are fans consuming reality, or are they consuming a carefully packaged illusion that thrives on the very uncertainty they find so unbearable? What if the very outrage and heartbreak are themselves the goal, not a byproduct, of the way these stories are shared and circulated? It is undeniable that emotions magnify the weight of unanswered questions. But is it wise to let emotions dictate conclusions? Shouldn't we, as engaged observers, demand evidence before surrendering to theories that could distort reality? If Jungkook's expression on stage or Jimin's absence from a frame becomes the foundation of sweeping assumptions, then are we truly uncovering the truth, or are we creating one? And if we are creating one, who benefits from that creation? The fans, the media, or those who deliberately stir controversy to maintain public fascination? These are not comfortable questions, but they are necessary ones. Every viral clip on TikTok, every dramatic headline on YouTube, every speculative thread on Twitter, none of these guarantee accuracy. Instead, they reflect the fragmented nature of modern media, where speed triumphs over truth and engagement outweighs verification. Are we, then, participants in discovering the truth, or are we unwitting participants in spreading myths? Is it possible that Jimin's absence is being exaggerated precisely because silence is more powerful than clarity? The gravity of this situation lies not only in the uncertainty of Jimin's whereabouts but in the way audiences consume that uncertainty. The speculation itself has become an event, one that generates clicks, discussions, and emotional storms. But what if this storm was manufactured? What if the entire narrative of absence is less about fact and more about perception? Can we truly claim to know whether Jimin chose to step away, whether circumstances prevented him from attending, or whether the narrative has been deliberately distorted for attention? And if we cannot, what does that say about the reliability of the media we consume? The danger of unverified narratives cannot be underestimated. A single post without context can ignite a wildfire of assumptions, and once emotions are involved, those assumptions become stubbornly resistant to correction. But should ARMY, known for its intelligence and critical depth, allow itself to be manipulated by incomplete evidence? Or should fans demand a higher standard of truth, one that resists the seduction of easy speculation? If we fail to question, are we not complicit in spreading the very hoaxes we claim to despise? The responsibility now lies not with Jungkook or Jimin, but with the audience itself. Are we willing to separate fact from speculation, to admit that some answers may never be immediately available, and to restrain ourselves from transforming uncertainty into false certainty? Or are we too eager for drama, too willing to believe that every silence hides betrayal, and every absence conceals a fracture? When we react without reflection, we surrender our agency and allow narratives to be written for us. But when we question, when we doubt, when we demand verification, we reclaim control over the stories we choose to believe. It is also worth asking, who benefits from keeping fans in suspense? Media platforms thrive on engagement, and sensational headlines drive views. But are those headlines always anchored in truth? Or are they deliberately crafted to provoke emotional responses, knowing that a fandom in turmoil is a fandom that stays engaged? If the media profits from uncertainty, then should fans not resist being reduced to mere consumers of chaos? Shouldn't we instead become guardians of truth, protecting not just our idol's dignity but also our own integrity as an audience? At the core of this discussion is a paradox. The more attention fans give to Jimin's absence, the more power the narrative gains, regardless of whether it is true. Are we, then, strengthening a myth by obsessing over it? Are we feeding the very machine that turns silence into spectacle and absence into drama? The provocative question is whether fans themselves have become the architects of their own confusion, amplifying theories that may have no foundation in fact. If that is the case, then what is truly missing is not Jimin's presence, but our collective ability to discern truth from manipulation. So the challenge is placed before ARMY and the wider audience. Can we rise above the sensational pull of unverified speculation and instead approach this situation with patience, skepticism, and critical depth? Can we admit that the truth may be more ordinary than the theories suggest, or that the absence itself may not carry the weight we project onto it? If we fail to do so, then we risk becoming prisoners of narratives designed not to inform but to provoke, not to enlighten but to exploit. That as the echo of Jungkook's "Ella Spotlight" continues to reverberate, the haunting question lingers: where was Jimin, and what does his absence mean? Yet perhaps the more important question is not where he was, but why we are so willing to accept speculation as fact.